I never thought a quiet afternoon could change my whole outlook after a long day. At school, I came home expecting my usual routine: grab a snack, relax, and wait for my dad to come back from work. But instead, I found myself pulled into a moment that shifted, everything revealing layers of understanding. I didn't know existed my stepmom Sarah was the kind of beautiful that made you stop and notice, not just on the outside with her soft auburn curls framing her face and those bright green eyes that seemed to smile even before her lips did, but also in the way she carried herself. She had a calm grace that made everyone around her feel at ease. I never really thought of her as more than my dad's wife and my stepmom. But in that moment, I realized she had a quiet confidence that combined kindness and strength. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows as I came home, casting a warm golden light across the hardwood floor. The house was unusually silent. With my backpack still on my shoulders, I headed to the kitchen, looking forward to a few quiet moments alone. But as I was about to pass the hallway leading to the bedrooms, I heard a sound soft and barely noticeable, but enough to make me pause. It was like a hum, a gentle tune that seemed private, and personal curiosity got the better of me, and I followed the sound down the hall. I stopped outside Sarah's slightly ajar door. I knew I shouldn't look, that I should just turn around, but something held me there. Like I sensed that something wasn't quite right. Leaning in just enough, I saw Sarah lying on her bed, her face turned away from me, wrapped in a moment of stillness. It wasn't what I expected, and for a second I didn't know whether to knock or leave quietly. But then I saw something in her that made me hesitate. Vulnerability, not in a way that felt intrusive, but in a way that made me realize I had never truly seen her like this before. I'd always thought of Sarah as the person who held our family together, the one who made sure everything kept moving. But right then, she wasn't my stepmom or my dad's wife. She was just Sarah, a person with her own thoughts and emotions. Before I could back away, she shifted slightly and noticed me standing there. My heart skipped a beat, worried that she might be upset with me for intruding, but to my surprise, she didn't seem startled. Instead, she smiled, not with embarrassment or irritation, but with a warmth that told me everything was okay. "Come in," she said softly. Her voice was calm, almost inviting. I hesitated, unsure what to do or say, but her gentle eyes reassured me that it was all right. It wasn't awkward, like I feared it was, something different, something deeper. Like we were finally seeing each other. For the first time, I stepped into the room, slowly sitting on the edge of the bed. I didn't mean to intrude. I started, my voice shaky, but she waved her hand in dismissal, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "You didn't," she said lightly. "I was just thinking, funny how sometimes when you think you're alone, your mind wanders to unexpected places." A silence followed, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It felt like a moment that was supposed to happen, one that we'd been unknowingly waiting for a chance to move beyond our polite exchanges. And finally talk, really talk. We've lived in this house together, moving around each other for so long, Sarah said, her voice thoughtful, but we never really got to know each other, did we? I was taken aback by her words. She was right. For years, we'd shared a home, but had never shared more than the basic courtesies. How was school? Do you need help with anything? We lived parallel lives that only barely touched. I guess we haven't, I admitted, not sure how to respond. She gave me another smile, one that seemed to break down the walls that had always been between us. "I think we've both been too careful," she said, almost to herself, trying not to overstep or say the wrong thing, but maybe it's time we stopped trying so hard. Her words made me think I'd never really considered that Sarah might feel just as out of place as I did in this whole family dynamic. She wasn't just my dad's wife. She was her own person with experiences and dreams I'd never taken the time to learn about. As the sunlight dimmed into a soft glow, we talked like we never talked before. Not because we had to, but because we wanted to. She opened up about her life before my dad, about her challenges and her dreams. And for the first time, I found myself sharing my own stories with her, not because it was polite, but because I wanted her to know. Me too. We laughed at old memory stories we never shared with each other before. Sarah told me about her adventures backpacking through Europe after college, and I shared the embarrassing story of how I got lost on a school trip. The more we talked, the more I realized how much we had in common, how much we could have connected if we'd only let our guards down sooner. That moment of vulnerability I had seen in Sarah was no longer just about that single glimpse. It was about all the chances we had missed to be closer, all the times we kept our distance for no real reason as the hours passed and the room was bathed in evening light. The tension that had once stood between us melted away. We weren't just polite acquaintances anymore. We were finally something more. "I'm glad we talked," she said softly. Her sincerity, clear in her voice. "I always wanted to get closer to you, but I didn't know how to do it without pushing too hard." "I'm glad to," I said, feeling lighter than I had in years. I guess I didn't realize how much I needed this. We sat there a little longer, the silence between us, comfortable, filled with understanding and peace. When I finally got up to leave, I felt a warmth in my chest. What had started as an awkward moment had turned into a turning point, one that shifted everything between us for the better. "I'll see you in the morning," I said as I reached the door. Sarah nodded, her eyes soft and genuine. "Yeah, see you then," she said, and for the first time I felt like those words meant something. We weren't just living under the same roof anymore. We were finally becoming a family. As I walked back down the hall, I couldn't help but feel grateful for that unexpected moment. What could have been a misunderstanding had turned into a chance to understand each other. And from that day on, everything was different. We built something new, something real, and that was more than enough.